Welcome to the Gray Area. The Gray Area Media. We've obligated ourselves to be the voice for all communities, speaking on topics that include community, religion, education, politics, technology, sports, health, and wellness. The Gray Area Media is a platform created by longtime friends for the sole purpose of providing our communities with the ability to voice current, past, and modern-day issues. The Gray Area, in its naming significance, solely speaks to the area in which people shy away from speaking because of media-based constraints or contractual-based obligations. Well, I'm here to tell you, we don't do that here. So please, stay tuned in. We're going to go live in a few minutes. Don't forget, please add us as a friend on Facebook so that you can follow our live feed. And not only that, please add us on Twitter and Instagram at The Gray Area Media. Please visit our website at www.thegrayareamedialive.com. Thank you. Hello, Facebook. This is The Gray Area, and we are live right now. We have a special treat for you guys today. We're talking about mental health. This is your boy, Ray E.
This is your boy, P. Wills. What's happening?
And we have, let's start over here. Sharon Mason, Tasha Marie,
Yes.
Jessica Gordon.
Yes.
How you guys doing?
Great. How are you? I'm blessed. Can't complain.
Glad that y'all made it.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys all specialize in mental health, or to some extent, you are a mental health blogger.
Yes.
So you do a lot of articles. This is from some personal experience too, right?
Absolutely. So I
Okay.
have a personal blog called Transparently Living in Truth.
Okay.
And it is about my personal journey living with mental health challenges and recovering from addiction.
Okay. Yes, we definitely need to talk about that and go into that.
Absolutely.
It's nothing like having some experiences from, someone who's been through that hill and is able to now articulate that and tell people how to get out of it.
Absolutely.
You guys both do pretty much the same thing in different areas, different companies, I would say.
Yes.
Let's start with Jessica. Can you go into detail about what a marriage and family therapist is and what you guys do in regards to mental health?
So total, there's probably 3-4 backgrounds that you can get in mental health as a grad school student, and one of them is marriage and family therapy, and it's really is its own sort of special background or specialty because we're taught to think in systems.
Okay.
So we want to take into consideration not only the individual, but your family, your partner, the community you live in, the church that you're a part of,
Right.
your culture, your tradition. So we're taught from sort of this systemic-based knowledge versus just
Right.
looking at the person itself. So it's been really helpful
Right.
to work with families and in the community with that knowledge.
Okay. Awesome. Same for you. Same
Yes.
question.
So Jessica and I actually went through the same program. So what she speaks on is systemic, and I like the fact that we're not just focusing on one area.
Right.
We're looking at the entire picture.
For sure.
And the more pieces of the puzzle that you have, the more that it makes sense. Sometimes people will look at only one area and only going to get a limited point of view. But when you look at, like Jessica said, the community, the neighborhood, the school, the church, the parents, families, take all those things into consideration, then you're able to treat the whole person, the whole
Right.
system.
Right.
Yes.
And you guys spoke on it a little bit, but it is systemic. Lots of this, some genetic, in my opinion. African Americans, let's just speak for that. I can speak for myself because, I'm an African American, but I know that there's things that we go through that other cultures may not go through based on, your environment, where you live and what's going on with you. I know based on the experience of my growing up, living in the hood and seeing different things where people get shot and killed and all these different things, we don't understand how that has an impact and an effect on us later on in life.
Absolutely.
They talk about why people cold or heartless, or they become numb to certain things that they see all the time. And you got to think that some people grew up in these neighborhoods, and
Right.
it's not a surprise to see a dead body, or is to see someone get shot, or to see someone get locked up, or to see mom not at home, to see dad not at home. These things are normal. So, and then you go on into adulthood, and these things kind of float with you. And then you encounter people who haven't had that experience, and they encounter you, and they're wondering what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
You don't have a mom or dad at home. You lived in a neighborhood where people were actually shooting. Stuff like that. Just can't relate. So today I'm hoping to help our community and all communities just understand that mental illness doesn't mean that there's something actually like wrong with you in the fact that like it's only you suffering from that. I think mental illness is everybody got a little bit of crazy in them, right? Your life experience may have been different, but you got a little crazy in you, because that may not have been like someone else's life coming up. So I'm hoping today you guys can help people identify with if something is wrong with them. And then you have things like medication that some people take that make them even more crazy, So we have to figure out how to self-identify and know that we're doing things that are irregular. And when you have a busy life, and when you just keep doing these, you're going through your life, you start missing those things, and you start avoiding them and putting them in the back. So what are some of the things that you guys are doing in your job and your roles? You guys can speak on this individually.
Okay.
To help people identify with those kind of things. And you can start by just speaking on some of the things I was speaking on as far as like the root of it. Where did it start at, and, what it's evolved to, and how can we create solutions for it?
Okay.
So,
can I start?
Sure, go ahead.
So just thinking about, recently I've been doing a lot of presentations on substance abuse, prevention with adolescents, teens, and a lot of times I like to talk to them about why it is that a teen may use drugs.
Right.
And we talk about maybe you've dealt with sexual abuse, you've been sexually abused or mentally abused, you may have been neglected, abandoned, and this may be what a person goes to as far as coping. So instead of just brushing those things under the rug and saying just get over it, well, no, let's bring it all out. Because if you've experienced any of those things, you've seen a friend killed. I know a lot of young people, they know a lot of people who've died.
Right.
And then it becomes a norm. Oh, such and such is gone. That's not a normal thing for a child to be 13 or 14 years old and to
not experience the pain from it,
Right.
It's like, no.
Lost, 7 or 8 friends, and there he goes, there she goes. And so just to talk about, well, these things have affected you, and then this may be the route that you've taken or you're thinking about taking, but there's other ways to address it. And, hey, that's what I do.
Right. Right. Tasha.
Personally,
yeah, can you go into your story a little bit, because you have a unique story, and you've dealt with this and are surviving it, and things are getting better. So
absolutely. So I would say it probably started at 8 when my mother was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Dealing with that in and of itself at 8 years old, your mother coming home and saying that she doesn't know you, that you're not her daughter, that her father is not her father,
wow.
and all of these things. Completely changes how you view the world, especially at 8 years old. And then also being left in the care of that parent, to be left home alone at times, or see various things that definitely shouldn't have seen at that age.
Right.
And then fast forwarding to the age of 16, I would say that's really when things kind of just took a turn for the worse. At 16, my boyfriend at the time was killed due to gun violence.
Wow.
And and my timeline is always sketchy, but either in the couple of days prior or the couple of days post, I was sexually assaulted. So those two things culminating at the same time sent me into a very deep depression. And I self-medicated with alcohol at that time.
Okay.
I can honestly say that I became almost hypersexual as well, and that was an addiction in and of itself.
Okay.
And so it was a lot. Alcohol, that was up until November. I've been clean of hard alcohol since November. I went cold turkey.
Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, man, that's beautiful.
Thank you. I don't recommend going cold turkey. It is extremely hard. My biggest thing for people, and I hope that they get out, is yes, I had a lot of willpower, but I also had the grace of God.
Right.
And if you know that something isn't right, even if you just have a little inkling that something doesn't feel right within your head, within your body, whatever, seek help.
Right.
Seeking help is not an option. Treatment is not an option. It's mandatory. It's the only way that you will be able to get well. And I've finally gotten to that point to where I realize my willpower is running thin. And so I'm now under the care of a licensed therapist and will soon be under the care of a licensed
Bless your heart. Awesome. Yeah.
psychiatrist. Thank you.
Awesome.
Couldn't get it out. So my story, it's very extensive. I gave you the very short version.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, I can touch on things that wasn't the only sexual assault that happened. I've also dealt with domestic violence in my previous relationship. So I mean, there's a lot of layers,
Right.
and those layers I tried to self-medicate as much as I could. I've tried several drugs, and marijuana, as much as I tried to deny it, I used it as, as a drug, and it was very addictive. So
you went through all these things, and what was the turning point? Like, did somebody have to drag you to get help, or did you just wake up one day and was like, I need to?
It was
figure this out?
literally me crying and praying all night in a hotel room that turned me around.
Okay.
I won't go into details about that, but what I will say, I had just had enough.
Okay.
I'd had enough of being miserable. I had enough of, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. That
Right.
is very true.
Very strong.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
But it was really, I was just to the point where I knew I wanted to have kids someday, and I didn't want to have kids in the condition that I was in. And that was probably one of my biggest motivations. I want to be the parent that I always wanted. So that in and of itself was
That's awesome, and
Thank
your story is rare, unfortunately, because there are some people where it clicks and they're like, you know what, I gotta get out of this. But there are also people who, you guys can attest to this, who seek the weaker version of themselves and continue to go down a
Live their
deep,
life,
dark
yeah.
path.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there were times where I fell prey to my weaker self.
Okay.
I tried to commit suicide 3 times before I was
Oh
19.
wow.
And the last time, I almost didn't survive that.
Wow.
I had to have my stomach pumped. I spent the night in the hospital.
Right.
It was a long night.
How old are you now?
I'm 27.
You're 27.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh wow.
So a lot of life lived in a short
Right.
amount of time.
Right. For sure. Yeah.
So.
And not to cut you off, but
Yeah, absolutely.
but people don't understand that there's a lot of people that go through this every day
Yes.
and living it right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then they have to encounter the life outside of themselves.
Yes.
Which is police, people,
Yes.
the
Yes.
world, school.
Absolutely.
And, to the normal person who doesn't experience all these things, this is nothing. I mean, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
And but for them, it's nothing. It's like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with this person? This person is crazy. You need to,
Yeah.
they don't understand that a lot of people that go through what you go through that every day. And then some of them are survivors by going to school to still get an
Absolutely.
education,
Right. Absolutely.
still go off on to college, still trying to take care of home and dealing with all this plus everything else.
Yes.
It's a big deal.
Yes.
Do you think
Very big deal.
your childhood played like a huge part in that?
Oh, absolutely. The biggest thing about my childhood that I can remember is feeling absolutely alone.
Yeah.
I was an only child. My mother was an only child. It was just me, my mom, and my grandpa. While my mom is in and out of the hospital, on meds, just completely out of it, my grandfather's working 2 and 3 jobs just to keep a roof over our head. So by the age of 10, I knew how to pretty much care for myself. And then through my formative years, I practically raised myself. And for me, I didn't feel like I really had an outlet a lot of the time. I tried to find various outlets, but nothing just really did it for me. I didn't feel relief at school because I'm being bullied at school and dealing with all of the pressures of being a teenager in high school.
Living in a single parent home.
Living in a single parent home. I didn't find relief at church because the church at the time just was not helpful, and I'll put that, like, leave that where it's at.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, that's understandable.
Yeah. And then again, there's no support at home, so it's like, okay, well, where do I turn? Okay, well, there's relief in this bottle a little bit. Maybe if I just keep drinking, maybe the relief will come.
Temporary relief.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, there was a point, I believe it was like my junior, maybe senior year in high school. I was showing up to school drunk 7:30 in the morning. Didn't nobody know. I knew how to hide it very well. I did have an instructor, I think it was a sub, tell me, I can smell it coming out of your pores.
Wow. And this is in high school?
This is in high school.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, and all I did was I just left and went to my boyfriend's house at the time or whatever and drank some more. So, I mean, it was very deeply rooted into my childhood.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, people don't understand, instead of calling someone crazy or something, and, I say this several times to, people, I mean, culture, environment, government, religion, society all shape people. So, I mean, you mentioned, the things within your childhood. I mean, that is what has shaped that person, that you were at that time. But, people that wouldn't have, known you or would not have even given themselves the time to, get to know you, probably labeled you certain things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Instead of trying to get to the root of why you are the way you were,
and that just
at that time.
Compounded what I was already going through.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, it was a vicious cycle. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So here we are, and I'm going to bring you guys in on this because obviously she's experienced that. I'm not saying that you guys haven't, but you guys are working in the field directly with people trying to get them up and out of this, and obviously you were a survivor from being a part of that. You're here today, you know.
Absolutely.
Let's clap to that.
God, thank you.
It's always a beautiful thing. A lot of people can't self-reflect and self-diagnose and self-understand. They would rather continue forgetting about it, like you said, just self-medicating and different things. And what are some of the things that you guys have? What are some of the things that you have encountered with people? And what are you doing to help them get past that? Because again, like we said, it affects life, it affects marriages, relationships, parenting. You guys have probably seen a little bit of everything. Yeah. What are some of the things that you guys are doing to help people get out of these situations and to help themselves figure out that something's wrong with them and they need to seek help? You can go first, Jessica.
Okay.
Let's go.
Let me think about that. Well, I work in addictions as well, and actually family therapy. So usually in addictions, you're only there for two reasons. One, because you're forced to be there, usually from legal situation. Okay. Or you're really ready to quit on your own.
Okay.
And
so these are people who have been dealing with drugs and addiction, whether it be alcohol or addiction of some kind. Okay.
And usually drugs, you can be addicted to anything that you find pleasurable, but my specialty was just drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
So again, either I like working with people that are forced to be there. Okay. And that you see them kind of take this shift from not wanting to be there to okay, this isn't so bad, to okay, I'm actually learning something, to I'm clean now.
Right.
It's a total fascinating thing to witness, but you talk about how do you sort of prepare people to get on this road, and the biggest thing with addictions is accountability and responsibility.
Absolutely.
And how do you guys enforce that?
First of all, you got to get real with yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I mean, how do you make a person look in the mirror? The whole accountability part.
I think having a conversation just on the topic of honesty in itself is really helpful, and to sort of get their minds to think about, okay, well, one, recovery is going to be pointless if I'm not honest, and it's going to be pointless if I'm not, honest with myself. And then taking the responsibility for all their choices, because the hallmark of an addict usually is they want to blame. They don't want to look on the inside. So,
oh, my mom wasn't there. My dad wasn't there. They left me. That kind of thing.
And they rationalize everything.
Right.
So kind of being able to slow that process down and help them understand that there is a point where you do got to take responsibility for your life. And kind of with the addictions therapist, you have to be a little bit confrontive. You can't just be, got to have a little more than you would have like working with couples.
You got to be
or
mean,
family.
a little bit mean. You got
to be really
direct.
real and direct,
Right.
and very assertive
Okay.
with them, because if you're trying to get them to take responsibility and accountability and to be honest.
My girlfriend would work well in that field. She is tough. Let me tell you, she is. She gives it to you raw and uncut. You know, and you know, it's necessary. And I bring that up because I noticed that when she does that with like some of her family members, and I mean, they snap right into shape. You know, I'm looking at it like, man, if I was slapped, you know, I don't know who would take that, you know, but obviously some people need that, right? Some people need that straight and direct, especially when you're addicted to something and you're trying to get off, because, you know, for someone who hasn't seen someone addicted to something, they're just trying to figure out, like, why are you doing that to yourself? And a person who's addicted is like trying to figure out how to get the next thing, you know, like, let me borrow some money. You know, I just need to go to the store. They're not even in their right mind. Is addiction a mental illness?
I would say it is a disease.
So it's a disease.
I do look at addiction as a disease, like a cancer.
It can be cured.
Okay.
It can be treated.
Because I asked that because there are people who can't get away from it. You know, like they relapse. You know, they be clean for 5-6 years, and I'll just take that one time, and they back on it again. You know, so is that mental, or is that?
I'm sorry.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mental situation, but I believe that it's also relational, because for some people, it's the fact that I'm not able to connect to people the way that I'd like to connect to them, and I don't get the satisfaction from these relationships that I'd like to have. I'm not receiving maybe the attention, affection, affirmation. I haven't received those things, and so I'm seeking them out in this way. And so I see it as being relational, and I believe that people can be cured. I know people that were suffering from addictions and they're not, and they haven't for years.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times it's being able to get in relationship with others, and that's why 12 steps work so well. Because
What is 12 steps?
So you have like your NA, your AA, those groups where people have common things in common as far as addiction to drugs or alcohol. They come together and they're able to meet on a common basis and receive that support from someone else that's going through the same thing that they're going through. So
Right.
it's kind of like peer-to-peer support.
Okay.
And that's relational. And so when you talk about the accountability, they find that there. It's relational, it's accountability, it's the support, and it's almost like a family environment. So recreating that, you know, so this person may not have had it in the past, but here's a place where you can go and
Right.
not necessarily judged. You show up in whatever space that you're in, and you receive that support from where you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I want to say something right fast. I used to, when I did young adult groups,
Okay.
it made me think of this article I read, and it said, I'll never forget this quote: "The opposite of addictions is not recovery, but human connection."
Okay.
Absolutely.
See that?
And so, I mean, it's dead on what you said, because when you do go, when you're using and you're addicted, you're isolating, you're not connecting. The only thing that you're connected to is your drug of
Is that
choice.
thing, right?
So, kind of like refiguring like this whole thing and reconnecting with people. Yeah, it is very.
Or
And
you
it
even,
shows that human interaction is a big thing. But I mean, if you look at life, that's what we should be doing, right? We should be connecting with each other on different levels. But because there's so many laws and rules in place, we decide to apply force. And, you know, and that force is not always good for someone suffering through something. We all need some kind of somebody to come in and say, you know what, let's just sit down, let's talk about it. You know, I've been there, like you being here today. I'm sure someone's listening or paying attention, or a family member that's trying to figure out how to get their family member off of this stuff. So your story helps them. Your story gives them hope, and it lets them know that, hey, you can achieve and get out of this.
Yes.
You know, we just have to figure out how to, as a community, you know, and someone chimed in. What did he say?
Yeah, one of our
viewers.
viewers said, great topic. Mental illness is one topic that we in the black community are afraid to speak about. I mean, why do you think that is? I mean, do you think that's more ego and pride?
Or shame, don't want to be shamed.
Yeah,
or-
yeah, like fear.
I think it's
yeah.
like a mixture of all of those things.
Okay.
Even to this day, I will hear people say, "Oh, black people don't go through that.
Right.
Black people don't, have depression and things like that." And I'm like, did you look at our history at all? Like, how
Right.
do we not have depression?
For sure.
A lot of it is pride
Okay.
because we are always perceived as strong.
Right.
That is strong black man, strong
Can't show
black
weakness.
woman. Yeah.
Right.
And so a lot of it is pride. I don't get it, to be perfectly honest.
Right.
Because we take things to a whole nother level.
Right, right. I mean, it's a lot of it is systemic.
Like,
You know, if
yeah.
you look at the history of black people,
Yeah.
and even from everything from eating food to fighting for scraps to fighting each other to coming to this point where we're realizing like, hey, maybe there's something wrong with us. You know, like mentally, maybe we need to get our minds fixed back on what life really is, as opposed to what we grew up seeing and dealing with from certain
And
aspects.
I think that also ties into the whole mental health and addiction thing.
Right.
A lot of people who suffer from addiction do have some type of mental health issue.
Right.
It's like a statistic. It's like 60 or 70%
Right.
or something.
Yeah.
Pretty high.
It's very high. And I believe that's coming from the standpoint we don't talk about it. We know our family isn't going to talk about it. We know our family is going to, I say 8 times out of 10, judge us on some.
Yeah, judge or laugh at
Yeah,
you.
you know,
yeah.
and so you seek that self-medication because you feel like no one will understand.
Or stop dealing with you. Some of them will just
Absolutely.
shut you out completely.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that did happen in our family to an extent. It was like me and my mother and even myself kind of became the black sheep of the family. A little bit.
There's a stigma.
There's definitely the stigma associated with it. And even now, like my family, they're just looking forward to really getting to know me
Right.
better through my blog because they honestly just don't know. They don't
Right,
understand
right.
it. And
They've seen
feel
other
like-
years of you doing different things and
Absolutely,
dealing
they
with
was
certain
tryna,
things.
Like, why is she doing this? She's
Right.
so bright. She's so this. She's so that. So what's really going on? But didn't really try to take the time to figure it out at all. And I don't know if I really wanted them to at that time, to be perfectly honest. So
Why?
I didn't want to admit it myself because
Okay.
my whole
You wasn't
thing,
trying to hear it.
Not at all, because my whole thing was I don't want to be like my mom. And then I literally did everything in my power to be like my mom.
It's
So,
crazy,
like,
isn't it? Yeah.
It was
I
completely wild.
I mean, I did the same thing with my dad.
Yeah.
He wasn't there as a kid, but I told myself growing up,
Yeah.
I do not want to be like him.
Yeah.
And then I started doing the things that he was doing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
weird how that
It's-
works.
It's wild.
And that's what makes me bring up like things like genetics, because I believe that pain and suffering is it comes through your DNA at some point. At some point, you're made from these people, this person, genetically. That's science. So you're going to get something from them. What you get from them, is it just looks, or are you getting some things that they've been through?
Emotion,
Yeah.
personality, yeah.
I think generational curses are like
Yeah.
a legit thing. So
Wow, you do?
Yes, I do.
In what aspect?
Yeah.
Like some of the same things I've gone through, my mother has gone through the same exact things, and I didn't know, we weren't even speaking at the time for me to even know that she went through some of those same things. It wasn't until we got back in contact within like the last couple of months that she was like, wow, I went through that same exact thing, and I had no idea that
Okay.
you were going through the same.
Or could it be that as a people, we're continuing to go through the same cycles?
And that's
of
what I mean by
things?
generational
Okay.
curse. It's
Right.
just the repetitive cycle from generation to generation. Just
Right.
teen pregnancy, addiction, mental health. Those all
From the environment.
absolutely.
So do you think with your story that you are breaking that cycle?
Oh, absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm glad you think that.
And if it's not broken now, it will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is-
Absolutely.
that's awesome.
I refuse
Yeah.
to pass this on to my children. I
Do you have any children yet?
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh wow. It's gonna come though. And, I mean, they're gonna be blessed though, man. I have a mother
absolutely.
like you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I made the conscious decision at 13 that I didn't want kids. Babysitting was enough. And even now, the work that I do is often centered around youth and young adults, and I say it's the most effective birth control.
Right.
Absolutely. But I do want to be an older parent. I hope to have children in my late to mid 30s.
Okay.
Because I want enough life experience to really be able to teach my children. Because I mean, I feel like with each generation, there's something the parent didn't experience that child did experience, and they have no idea how to deal with it. And I feel like if I live just a little bit longer and do the work that I'm trying to do, I will see those things and will know how to approach those things when my children go through them.
Right.
So I'm very strategic in having children.
That's good.
And I plan on being married when that happens.
That's good. I mean, and see, it's unfortunate that we get these things later in life.
Absolutely.
Because these are a lot of these things, and I mean, this is the cycle to me. You know, you born, you go through being a child, you become a teenager, you go to school, you get your education, and you start living life, right? You start, well, you obviously you test the waters, you know, between 20 and 25, but by the time you're 26, 27, you should have your full-blown career. You should be, you know, educated in some sense, you know, have your credit together, and, you know, be ready to live. You know, you don't necessarily have to have kids, but at that point,
Absolutely.
you know, you should be thriving and going, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of us in the community don't get this together until our 30s. So you right on time.
I wanted to say, when you talked about why is it that black people seek out help.
Right.
And I've been looking at I've been looking a lot into shame recently.
Okay.
The emotion shame, and we studied that a lot in my program as well.
Sure.
But just they say that shame is like literally the number one emotional poison because it's all about
Poison.
secrecy, and secrets keep us sick.
Oh, yes.
So when you sort of talk about and you think about going back as a black person, and we talked about a little bit of post-traumatic slave syndrome earlier, and how you just think about, like she said, generational curses. What do we call that? Generational, I don't know the fancy, but
You gonna call me out?
but no, it is a real phenomenon, having things passed down from generation
Right,
to generations.
right.
And, you know, we're not that far removed from slavery, still in my opinion. But anyways.
Yeah.
Not-
Talk about it.
In some aspects.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
But it's way more
being-
mental though.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, certainly. But still, being not that far removed from it and having all that shame around whatever it is that our ancestors dealt with. And when you pass that shame down from generation to generation, and the number one thing to be shamed about is anything around sex.
Right.
So,
When you say shame and when you say pass that down, it's like this. Your mom or your dad, let's start with grandparents. Grandparents live a life. They don't know anything about past what they know. What they know gets passed down to you. You don't know nothing about past except for your life experiences and what they've taught you. You know,
And
so that shame could carry on for generations and generations,
Right.
and you know.
and that on top of when things happen, like when uncle molested young cousin at the barbecue, or when daddy get drunk every night but don't nobody know, all those are secrets, and all those keep us feeling shame.
Right.
And like Sharon mentioned earlier, those things typically get scraped under the rug. And I feel like in the black community, because we did come from this, I mean, horrible place where I'm pretty
This was
sure
regular.
there was,
Right.
and I'm pretty sure it was so much shame. I mean, who would want to just sit up there and openly tell, you know, that I've been raped or my kid's been taken? So you get this.
You don't want your family looking at you funny, so you tell your kids that that
Right, or what happens
that
in
wasn't
our house.
bad.
They
You
in
know,
our
it's
house.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, so I think that for me, shame will probably be the number one reason why black people don't seek out help because we want to keep our secrets, but our
Right.
secrets keep us sick.
Mm-hmm.
But I do notice that there's an influx of Black people reaching out,
Absolutely.
and there's also an influx of Black mental health therapists and
Mm-hmm.
experts. So Black people are more inclined to seek services with someone.
People are
that
starting to
looks like
find out.
them.
Maybe it's not me. Maybe it's just all these different things I went through, and maybe my mother didn't have it all together, and maybe that came to me. So let
And
me
it's-
figure it out.
It's so funny. I just want to say this last thing, that white people have this culture where they're like, girl, I went to go see my therapist, and let me just tell you what we talked about. Like, you don't hear that
yeah,
in
they're
the
more
Black
open.
community.
Right, right.
They love their therapist. They'll let
Right.
you know their full name, their address, what they talked about.
Recommendation.
Recommendations. And so even just on a personal level, I try to encourage people, my hairdresser, people that I meet, if
Right.
you're in therapy and you have a good experience, talk about it.
It's
Share
okay.
that experience.
It's okay
I
to
have
get
a
help.
great therapist. I do. I have a great therapist.
It's okay to get help. I mean, you spoke on some really good points. Like people have to stop being ashamed to go get help. Let's stop keeping it a secret. As Black people, we do tend to point fingers like, "Oh, you crazy! I don't know what's going on."
And
We
that's
can't
how-
do that because that makes people not want to get help. Maybe they're trying to figure it all out, but life is throwing curveballs at them. And a lot of people don't make it. They end up committing suicide or getting rid of themselves because they don't see any other way out.
Right. So it's about having conversations. I'm kind of stuck on the young people.
Yeah, no problem.
Kind of been loving on the young people, even though
They need the love. They
Yeah.
need
Yep,
it.
stay stuck on them.
Right. So like in my therapy practice, I'm seeing more adults, but at my new job, it's adolescents. I'm seeing a lot of
Okay.
adolescents. So
Okay.
when I talk to the adolescents, I let them know that when you have things going on and you're letting the person know that I'm needing help, you're going to have somebody to tell you that, no, you don't need to go get it from this place. And like you said, there goes shame all over again, or shame,
Absolutely.
guilt, all those things. And so
Yes.
I let them know that if you know that something's not right with you, you go get help.
Right.
And you let a person know, I don't care what it is that you think, I don't care what it is that you have to say. I know that something's going on with me, that I'm not where I'm supposed to be mentally, emotionally, and I'm going to seek it out. And so they have to have that strength about themselves and say that I'm going to pursue this regardless, because if not, every day you're going to have somebody to kind of question you.
Right.
Whether that's a friend, whether that's a parent, whether that's someone in school, wherever it may be. And so they have to know that you're going to have your own strength in that, and know that what I'm doing is the best thing for myself, and not allow other people to tell you what it is that you should or shouldn't do in that situation. Go
Right.
get yourself some help.
Right.
And then next thing you know, the next person's going to get themselves some help, because they're thinking, well, he's different and he's a better person now. Maybe I need to follow suit.
Right.
know?
And families need to embrace that. Your family members need to be able to embrace that and say, "What can we do to help you?" and not look at you like you're some road warrior and just don't need help. Truth is, and we spoke on this in some of our education segments, that some people just need a hug. They appear strong, they got it all put together, but at the end of the day, they just want a
I
hug.
just need a
So a lot of people just, they're so used to fighting life, to battling, to going to war when they go outside them doors. And a lot of people, especially single parents, are doing it alone. So the kid is the only one seeing this, and how a kid gonna tell you to go get help? They don't even understand what that means. So family have to step up.
Absolutely. Two things on the shame piece. Shame, like you said, will keep you sick. And not only will it keep you sick, but it will keep you in the dark. It will keep you isolated.
Okay.
It will keep you from seeking help.
Right.
Shame from people thinking I would be like my mom kept me from seeking help. Shame from coming out and people also knowing that I am queer. That was something that kept me in the dark for a very long time. I just came out last year, and I'm still kind of struggling with it because I don't want people to see that before they see me.
Right.
And that's a big thing with mental health as well. I don't want you to see my condition before you see me, because my
Right.
condition does not define me. It's like this much of who I am. You know what I mean? But when people know and they're ignorant and they don't understand it, that's all that they see. They don't
Right.
see anything else. So the shame piece plays a big thing.
I have a question to ask you in
Absolutely.
regards to that,
Absolutely.
and you could choose to be transparent or not about it.
Transparent is my word. Yes.
Good, because do you feel like what happened to you when you were young sexually affected your
He was
view
about to ask the same
on
question.
your
Wow.
your view on life in regards to relationships with whether it's a man or a woman?
Oh,
What do you think?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, do you think people are born that way, or it's like what he was just asking?
So I believe that some people can be shaped by their experience, and I do believe that some people are legitimately born that way. For me, I was born that way. I knew very young that I liked both males and females, and it's equally. It's not like a halfway. It's not, well, sometimes I want to be on this side. I'm not greedy. It's not none of the preconceived notions that a lot of people have about bisexual people. But I knew. I just knew. And with everything else that was going on, I was like, well, I ain't gonna throw that on top of it. So I didn't tell anybody.
Right.
I denied that part of myself, and that drove me again into a deeper depression and deeper addiction. I believe when I really came to grips about my sexuality, I also discovered pills. So not only am I hypersexual with just males, because I'm trying to completely ignore the female part. I'm hypersexual. I'm on pills. I'm on alcohol. It's a whole lot going on top of mental illness, on top of a terrible home life. I mean, a whole lot of different pieces at the same time, and yet I'm still showing up every day like, hey, everybody, how you doing?
Right. Right.
So, like, that strong piece, and yes, that came full circle, that strong piece, love it when it happens. Yes, I had at one point, now I really understand how strong I am, and
Yeah, I mean, you are.
I walk in grace with that because I am a very strong individual, and I'm proud of that. But at one point, I got so tired of hearing how strong and resilient and blah 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 that I am. Because a lot of times, I just needed somebody to give me a hug and say, "Baby, listen,
Right.
what do you need?
Right.
What's really going on?" But all people could see was my strength. They didn't realize that I was literally fighting every single day. And even still, I say I fight every day. I fight to stay sane, I fight to stay sober, and I fight to stay alive. Because that's legitimate. It's every single day.
Right.
Every single day. So, I mean, yes, individuals can be strong, but just because they have a lot of strength does not mean that they can't pull strength from others as well.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, seeing your mother and reconnecting, did you get a lot or some clarity, about things that like, bother you, that you had questions about?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In regards to her as an individual and as a mother, I got clarity. In regards to our relationship dynamics then versus now, I got clarity. And then I also got clarity about myself. Because a lot of what I struggled with, I was in denial of just how similar me and my mother really were. And so that played a major part in me being an addict. I was absolutely trying to deny that at one point her and I were just alike. And that tore me up.
Right.
It did. But I mean, we've
The
come
most
a long
important
way.
point is that you realized it, and that helped you move forward.
Absolutely.
Like you
Absolutely.
said, people don't realize it until they get in it, and then they're like, you know what? I am an addict. And I've been fooling myself all these years, thinking I'm skating.
Because, once you remove yourself from that situation,
Yeah.
your thoughts are clear.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
In regards to like mental health, what are some identifiers? Okay, because lots of people go on with their daily lives, and it's even people out here coaching people on how they should be, and they the most crazy ones. So this brings me to my point. Like, it just feels like all of us have something in us that can snap one day if we don't realize what's happening. You can absolutely go nuts, not understanding where you're going. And so you guys got the upper hand because you can self-identify because you're in that field.
Can we?
Mostly, until somebody tell you about yourself,
That's what it is.
But we have to figure out how to self-identify these things, so that we can either one, seek help, or two, not get to a point where we're incarcerated because we decided that we were okay. You know, at some point, erratic behavior and things that you do that are not normal. How do you identify those if no one is telling you something's wrong with you?
I think that one, just a very sort of blanketed statement. If you just feel like you feel something, maybe something is not totally aligned, and you just feel like something's off, go see someone. Like, it doesn't have to be this big, like, oh, I'm super depressed, or I'm scared every minute of the day, or I do this. Like, if you just feel like maybe you want more, or you don't totally understand, or maybe some things bother you, like, you can go see someone for that.
Right.
So I just said that to say it doesn't have to be sort of this big thing that you're looking out for that you have to go talk to
Like road
somebody.
rage. If you curse people out all the time when you get on the road, like I kid you not, this is a story. Don't laugh because this is a story that really happened. I was in a car with a dude when I was like 17, 18 years old. This is my mom's friend. And he was telling me, he's like, you just got to be level-headed, man. Just go in there and, don't let people mess with you. And as soon as somebody cut him off, he rolled the window down and started cursing. I was like, man, didn't you just tell me? You tell me not to be level-headed, but you out the window like, hey, man, don't ever do that again. It's like, it's one of those things like we always got the answer,
For
but
everybody else.
Right. We always got the answer for everybody else, but we have to figure out, like, and things you're saying is like, it don't have to be something huge. You can say, like, whoa, that wasn't me. I mean, I'm out of character today. And if you're out of character for a week, you're like, okay, now I need to go get this checked out, You get one day where you can just go completely nuts, right? Everybody get one day, okay? You get
No.
one day.
No,
You don't get 4 days
you can't
to
have
go
a day.
completely nuts.
You can't have a day to go completely nuts, because a day of people going completely nuts is what we're seeing in the media. So
Yeah.
I can't even give you like really a whole moment in that sense, because people are losing their lives because
Somebody went completely nuts.
yeah. So and I'm gotta be mindful of the words, because
For sure.
saying
Right, for sure.
nuts and crazy and stuff.
Yeah.
I know some of my clients might be
Well,
listening.
the truth is that they've gotten to a point where they had to go completely nuts, and it's not that there's basically what you're saying is we're trying to be careful with that word, but I'm saying, look, they got to that point where they just went completely nuts because it wasn't identified early enough. So we don't want to get to that point. You don't want to get to the point where you go completely nuts. You want to stop it early on. So I mean, you're correct when you say, even that one day, just let's put a cap on it, because after so long and you go completely berserk,
From a personal standpoint, as I can only speak compared to them, self-identification is not easy.
Okay.
It's not something that a lot of people can do. Black people, we're not really good at it. Again, we're very good at seeing everybody else's
Problems.
wrong, sins, however you want to look at it, and can't see ourselves.
Right.
A lot of it has to do with who's around you. At one point, what caused me to really see myself was, for whatever reason, God allowed me to see the people around me.
Okay.
And in them, I saw what I didn't like about myself.
Okay.
That's how it came to self-identify for me. A lot of times it's not just you sitting and self-reflecting and doing this, just this is what's wrong with me.
Okay.
That's not really what it is. A lot of times it knocks you over the head and completely blindsides you when you realize something is off or something is wrong. And again, I had people around me that enabled the behavior that was keeping me addicted and keeping me depressed. And then I also had people that brought to light, like, hey, you're not yourself today.
Right.
They poured love into me.
People who love you will let you know.
Absolutely.
You just realize that.
Those people I would tend to cut off because I wanted to stay in my mess.
Right.
Once I got closer.
Gotcha.
Once I got
turn the air on.
closer to the point that I was tired and I wanted better and I wanted different.
Right.
I started again gravitating more towards the people who were pouring love into me,
Right.
and not pouring negativity, not pouring again enabling behavior
Right.
into me. I started gravitating towards the people that I knew were going to be able to help
Right.
pull me out. So it's really again, it comes to the willingness of the individual to want the help. And I think our biggest issue is just that a lot of times we don't want the help at that time. I would say that the biggest thing that people can do, specifically to those who are listening, that you have a family member that is living with mental health challenges or addiction, the greatest thing you can do is love them.
Okay.
Even if you need to love them from a distance.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they can pull you down with them.
Right,
and all you're trying to do is help them.
True that.
Don't stop loving them. Don't give up on them. Don't stop praying for them. But do it from a distance.
Right.
And then let God do the work. Because honestly, a lot of healing is God-led.
Absolutely.
So
having a spiritual relationship,
absolutely.
In any capacity,
absolutely
will give you something else to put your mind on as opposed to the world. Because me and my girlfriend have our conversations about this all the time. I look at human beings all day long. I'm just like, human beings are crazy. One minute they want to love you, and the next minute they want to slap your face. It's just like, but if you would go crazy trying to figure somebody out because you don't realize that we're all human. We've been given the opportunity to have our own choice, which we make choices every single day, and we just can't handle it, being a human being on this earth. So having a spiritual relationship in some capacity will help you weed through this life.
Absolutely.
We're dealing with a big, epidemic right now of people not realizing what's in front of them. And I'll just use officers. Some officers can identify when someone has a mental illness, but most cannot. And people die because of that. Corinne Gaines was one who was testing the police. You would think that if you seen that video, like when I first seen it, I'm like, oh man, she asked for it. She was talking crazy. I mean, she wasn't cooperating. And I had to think to myself after a week, I said, you know what? She was suffering from something. And even if she was diagnosed, whether she was on pills, whatever it was, maybe the pills made her, a little bit more crazier. Like you don't know. There are doctors who, and I can attest to knowing someone who dealt with this, where they prescribed the wrong medication and it made someone loopier. Or threw them into another realm. It's something that you like, wait, what's going on here? This was supposed to help. This didn't help. This made things worse. So now you're dealing with some doctors who prescribe the wrong medicine. Then you go out into the world and you're good enough to leave the facility, right? You're good enough to walk out of the doors and they say, well, she's okay. But then you keep having these encounters. Now you think people after you. Now you think the world is different. And that tells you right there that it's not time yet. There's some things that need to occur. So, have you guys dealt with that, or are facing that, or do you see that?
Yes.
In your field.
Yeah, you've got some individuals. They may present. They might be suicidal, and if they talk to you in a way that is like, I don't have a plan, I don't necessarily have the intent, you have to kind of weigh it out, because you can't just hospitalize a person because a person has thoughts of, I no longer want to live.
Right.
At some point or another, most of us have had those thoughts. Most of us would never carry it through, but you have a lot of people and that's the thoughts that they have, so you have to be able to assess to see, is this person, do they have the intent? Do they have the means? You have to go through the whole screening process, and you may have a family member that's concerned, but if this person isn't at the place where whoever's assessing them feel like that they're an immediate threat to themselves, then you can't just hospitalize people. So you're in a position where it's very difficult. You can't, against this person's free will, say that I'm going to lock you up.
Right.
And so you have to, like I said, have that assessment piece, and that can be very difficult for family members. So I'm trying to help you get help, but you still have say-so to a certain degree of whether I'm going to seek this help or not. And then you have HIPAA, you have the confidentiality. There's so many things that come into play. So may not even be able to talk to a family member about this person's situation if they haven't signed off. So it can be very difficult when a family member is trying to get help. And I don't know this young lady's situation. I'm not sure what was taking place, but there may have been family members
Yeah.
that were checking in. Medication's not a one size fit all. So when you say not properly, okay, so this medication can work for 100 people, but if you're the 101st person,
Might not
there
for
may
you.
be different side effects, and
Right.
there's often, things that are going to be a little bit worse. And okay, now we know we can't give you this one. Now we
Right.
need to do this, or we may have to do a gene test now to see which line of medication is going to work for you and your DNA. So
They have those?
oh, absolutely.
Oh, nice.
Yep, going to swab you, send it to the lab, and now we know that this is what we need to give you because of your body makeup.
Right.
So there's some ways that you can go about it, but if an individual says that I don't want to seek help, often you can't make them.
Okay. Wow. And which shows today, some people become homeless or some people get incarcerated, and a lot of times there's just place for them, which is usually not a good place. And I was talking to my son, man. He's like, why are people homeless? Why is always a lot of people homeless? And first thing that came to my mind is,
question.
the first thing that came to my mind was you have two different styles of homeless people. I didn't say this to him, but in my mind, I'm thinking like, that's a good question. You have people that want to get money from it. That's just their thing. For whatever reason, it's a hobby for them. And then you have people who are actually homeless, who are mentally ill or just down on bad luck or whatever it is. But there's a lot of mentally ill people out in the homeless arena, especially in places like California, Miami. A lot of the bigger cities house a lot of
pool of 'em here.
and they have like cities, with tents and stuff. So it's a big epidemic. And America is challenged with trying to figure out how to help all these people. And I think that
if we stop building luxury apartments, that's just my personal opinion.
why do you say that?
I mean, it's constantly driving all of the prices of housing is going up in general.
Right.
Now affordability is on like 42nd and
Right.
Post.
Right.
And that's almost it. And
Right.
so I keep saying eventually the hood is going to become the suburbs and the suburbs is going to be the hood because a lot of gentrification is happening.
Absolutely.
There's
I
just
agree
a
with
lot
that.
of different factors. And so the homeless thing, if $15 an hour, just for an example, is not a bad amount of money, especially if all you have is a high school diploma.
Right.
Not a bad amount.
Unless you have kids and
Absolutely.
all these
So
other
coming
things.
from my standpoint, I was making about $15 an hour at some point, and I was struggling to sustain just me. I'll have a moment of transparency. I'm currently homeless because of that,
Really?
because of mental health, and being at my lowest of lows. Coming on the other side of that, I ended up being homeless. I
Right.
ended up not having a job. I don't currently work now. And it wasn't for my lack of trying. But there were a lot of factors, and the fact that when you go to look for apartments, I understand, high risk, you see an eviction. I understand the factors, but when you try to seek help and you're told, oh, well, you can avoid being on the streets and things like that from people who are supposed to help you, I mean,
Right.
it does
Right.
something to you.
Right.
So the homeless thing it's a touchy subject for
Touchy.
me.
Right.
Because for the past 2 years, it's been an off and on thing for me being homeless. So, I mean, yeah. A lot of them do suffer from mental health.
Right.
And some of it, I believe, is because they're homeless.
Right.
They, it triggered that
Right,
in them. So, I mean, it's a very complicated.
That's why I'm glad that you're here today because, I mean, you represent the real that's going on with what you've been through and where you've come today, and you're doing great things, and you're self-encouraged, regardless, and
Thank you.
but you're still going. Seriously, and what you got going on.
Absolutely.
You're gonna be laughing at yourself 6 months from now, like, wow, look where
Absolutely.
I've came from, and you're gonna be helping lots of people.
Absolutely.
And that's the beauty in all this, and it just really showcases what mental illness is and different things that people go through, what they're subjected to. So we're just glad to have you guys here today
Thank you.
talking about this subject. A lot of people have chimed in and said this is a great discussion.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you guys want to expound on or let people know? Because I I don't know a lot about mental illness. You know, for all I know, I could be suffering from mental illness. You know, nobody really truly knows. You know,
Yeah, I mean, there's different levels
so
of it.
so these
absolutely.
so these discussions are necessary so that people can identify and understand where they are. You know, and if they actually need help, I see there's people around me. You know, I'm like, man, he's a little off. You know, I mean, they need to get some help, but you don't know what people going through.
Right.
You don't know what they're suffering from.
Absolutely.
You don't know what their past is.
Absolutely.
And you don't know what's going on. So, hopefully today our viewers can gain and have gained enough information to help them sustain and understand how, that they can get help. They can seek help. Families need to understand that we have to embrace these kind of things. So that people can be more open to saying, you know what, I went to go see a therapist. It's like, oh wow, what's your therapist talking about? You know, like you said, you know, white folks have a different discussion. You know, this is 6 people out of 7 is in therapy. You know, they figuring it out. You know, in our house, ain't nobody in therapy. We're just dealing with each other. You know, and that's not always a good result.
Absolutely.
So we have to figure that out and identify with that.
Yeah. I have a question though. I'm sorry.
I just want to, when you said expound on some things,
Right.
I did want to say 2 things.
Okay, for sure.
So one, when you talked about sort of like realizing like early signs or whatever.
Yes.
One, I would like to tell the parents out there or anyone who has loved ones that are children, you know, if your children go through trauma of any type,
Absolutely.
please get them help. Because
Okay.
a lot of parents will not get their child help. I mean, even if they witness a domestic violence incident, if someone passed away in their home that they're close to, if one of their parents got removed because of DCS, if a child, schoolmate passes away, like any type of trauma with children, because a lot of times I feel like parents overlook that. In our assessments, we often ask, you know, well, did you seek therapy for this at the time it happened? No.
Right.
So I feel like that's one thing, because that trauma, it starts to compile over the years.
Sure.
And sort of like what Tasha was saying, you know, a lot of people do turn to self-medication from trauma going unprocessed over time. So that is very important, and not just children, but anybody. And it was funny, we talked about sort of being from the hood and things sort of being
Right.
normal to us. And I remember at maybe 16 or 17, I saw like someone get shot and killed right there. It felt like a scene off a movie. Mama came out screaming. I mean, just helicopters flying in.
Right.
And then at the time, my boyfriend's mom was like, well, maybe you guys need some help. And I was like, no. I was 17 at the
Right.
time,
Wow.
but and she's sort of in the mental health field, so I understand where she was coming from. But anyways, so that, and another thing, when you talked about, you know, why Black people really don't seek the help out like that, you know,
Right.
this whole toxic, hyper masculine culture,
Right.
and feminine culture, because we're taught to be these strong Black independent women.
Right.
And the same with men too. You know, we're taught to toughen up. Why are you crying? You shouldn't be acting like a little.
Right.
So that also, in my opinion, goes into not seeking help and sort of keeping that strong face on, like everything is okay.
Right.
So those are the only two things. Oh no, going back to the trauma piece, but also like the I got so caught up in the trauma piece, but like the depression. I mean, there's subtle signs that you can Google, you know, signs
Right.
of depression. But like, you know, when
Absolutely.
you're feeling sad, or when you notice that your hobbies are changing, or you're not as motivated, or your eating patterns are off, those are kind of
Right.
telltale signs that you can be like, okay, I'm kind of off. Or
You're
when
not
you,
just tired.
right.
Right,
Or when you're
right,
feeling
right.
anxious, when you notice that you're worrying a little bit more, when you may be having flashbacks a little bit more. So there are some small things that can pop up that if you are insightful and you're ready to be real with yourself, you can say, okay, these may need some attention. So those,
Right.
that's
That's good. That's
Yeah,
good
those are
stuff.
points.
That's good
Yeah,
stuff.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the piece around grief and loss. So I know a lot of people that come in to see me, I find that there's some things that they have in common, and it's grief and loss, and not necessarily with death. And so it can be their job. It could be a relationship. It can be the fact that my health was on this level and now it's declined. I'm no longer able to do the things that I
Okay.
used to be able to do. It could be financially. It can be hopes and dreams. I thought that I was going to have this at this point in my life. I don't have these things, and so I'm experiencing that grief and that loss.
Right.
And so when you're thinking about, here I am in relationship with a person, and is there something different about this person? Does it look like they should be seeking help? You may have to look and say, well, are they experiencing any of these losses? And if so, okay, let's have some conversation around this, because it's natural. I feel that I can no longer do this, and I'm feeling the loss of it. And what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to just suck it up and act like no big deal? Or should I go in and see someone? So that's what brings a lot of people in to see me. I'm experiencing,
Very good.
I'm experiencing this.
Wow, very good.
Wow. No, well, I was going to, ask, as black people, do you think it's more systematic to keep us in shame, at an early age? Because, they try to diagnose kids with, ADHD when they're like 2 or 3 years old,
Right.
when their brain isn't even fully, developed yet.
Right, so they grew up thinking something's wrong with
Yeah,
them.
so
Up until they.
I mean,
come
to the
adults.
point, where you look at your skin and you just hate yourself because of your color.
And
It's like everything is negative.
So there was something else I wanted to speak on, and that in a second. But thinking about the role that media plays, and I know we've talked a lot about the hood, and we're not all from the hood.
Right.
I mean, we talk about hood and trauma
Yeah, for
related
sure.
to being in the hood and things that we might experience. But if you turn on the television, it doesn't matter what neighborhood you live in. Now, if you're seeing people that look like you on TV and they're dying every day, or they're
Right.
experiencing, this amount of incarceration, or they're going through whatever,
Right.
it's kind of hard not to take that on. And now I'm thinking
exactly.
about my nephews. I'm thinking about my son. I'm thinking about this person or another. And now I don't want to let this person out of my reach, and I'm scared for this
Right.
person. And that's going to traumatize you.
Right.
So it's not necessarily even about where you live or where you've been. You turn on the television and you're vicariously traumatized
Right.
over and
Right.
over and over. Either that or you're desensitized. And I believe that neither of them is a good thing. I don't think one is better than the other, because there you are again. Now you see it and it's no big deal.
Right.
Someone broke into a house and they got killed. And it's like, oh, well, that's what's supposed to happen. Well,
Right.
regardless, that's still somebody's child.
Right.
And
Right.
not that you want whoever was within that house to be harmed, but that's loss all the way around. And so just kind of wanted to speak to that.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's big. That's big. I'm glad you brought up the media, which is one of the reasons why we got the gray area together, because we wanted to show that there are positive, great things going on out here aside from what
Yes.
the media shows.
Every day.
The media just shows you all the bad stuff. They may touch on some good things every now and then to keep the balance, but most of the things that are reported are something where someone has got killed, accident, or somebody
False
crime.
media.
And then for
That
the
gets them the ratings, though. So it's
Yeah.
unfortunate, because if
It's
I showed you
unfortunate,
guys
right.
all the good stuff, who's going to be
exactly,
watching it?
exactly.
I just
you know,
posted on my Facebook status last week, media, MEDIA, most effective devil in America.
Oh, wow. I like that acronym.
Yeah.
yeah.
And so going back
that in.
to
I like that.
what you
Put that in your
said
writing.
about having this ideal that we're bad because of early diagnosing of ADHD. And I mean, I just think it's so much wider than just being diagnosed, because
Right.
we even talked about black people don't even really go to therapy like that. So that
Right.
means you're really not being diagnosed. But like Sharon was saying, just through turning on the TV, oh my God, it's just the government and the media is just so powerful and crazy when it comes to getting into our subconscious mind, because that's what leads our lives anyways. We don't make our behavior is not indicated from what we consciously think. It's indicated off what we subconsciously think and do. So that psychology of commercials and TV
Yeah.
and music and movies, and how that gets
Right.
in our subconscious mind, and we play that out as black people, it's so damaging. It pisses
Right.
me off in our community
Yeah.
For sure.
as well. So.
Do you and you touched on that just a little bit, but that it also made me think about some things in regards to what's happening in this country in regards to that. What people are seeing on TV, music videos. Not so much video games, but video games is an aspect in there. Technology, I would say, is a big factor. Kids are not as open and social as they used to be. In fact, some kids will throw a tantrum if the tablet battery goes out, or the Wi-Fi is not on, So we're dealing with a different kind of thing, and this is becoming a new illness. Being desensitized to what family is. It's hard. It's hard because you're surrounded by it every single day, and you want your kids to be social and you want them to thrive and stuff, but you also want them to stay off the streets. So you're like, well, you know what? Tablet, streets, tablet.
I think it goes back to the community being involved, which can be difficult because the community is trying to take care of themselves, but if you got someone that's working, it's nice when somebody else can get in there and get the kids. But if I'm working and I can't depend on anyone else, then what am I to do?
Right.
And so now, okay, if I can take your kids for a couple of days and they're in a healthy environment, and then you take mine for a day or two, that works out. But there's not as much of the community doing that. I've seen a lot of people stepping up. You've got mentorship and things, but a lot of people are just trying to make it.
I mean, we've just really gotten away from the whole village concept. We still say it,
True.
but we don't practice it.
Yeah.
True.
But it truly does take a village, not only to raise a child, but just to thrive, period.
Absolutely.
Nobody makes it alone, period. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that I always want to get across in anything that I do is that you are not alone. And black people, we often feel alone. We feel like nobody gets us. We feel like nobody gets it. But we get each other. Right. So why don't we pull from each other, lean on each other, recreate the village, and sustain that village?
Right.
But what if a person walks out into their village and those elements are worse than what they are dealing with inside of their home?
Right.
The village doesn't necessarily have to be your immediate environment. So for me, my village, I created my village because I didn't have it in my neighborhood or in my family. So what I did is I found a church that has really become my family. I found people. I really made a conscious effort to find and establish my village because I wasn't getting it where I already was.
Right.
And I think sometimes we're expecting things from people that they just can't give us instead of looking elsewhere, and not in self-medication, but looking outside of what we already know. Start going to maybe, say you're a student at IUPUI, maybe joining an organization, or maybe even just going, they have CAPS, counseling and psychological services on campus. They have like group counseling and things like that, and they have that on several different campuses. But if you truly want different and want better, you'll get it.
Right.
So we just have to want it.
Right.
That's the biggest thing.
You made me think about something.
Go ahead.
Because at some point during the conversation, we were talking about, and it wasn't stated as far as accessibility to health care or to mental health care, but it's accessible. I'm going to do one of those shameless plugs.
Come on.
No, do that, please.
And
That's what it's for.
I'm at CTS Counseling Center, and we have a sliding scale fee. So you have someone that may be paying $15. I mean, what is it that this person can pay? This is what they're going to pay. So we're able to accept the marketplace plans, Medicaid, but also sliding scale fee. And and so it's
awesome.
It's about, I mean, because you have some people say, well, I can't afford anything. You can't afford $5, $10. I mean, so if you're saying you can't afford that, chances are you're probably not going to show up for those appointments anyway. And it has to be some consistency with it.
Absolutely.
So you can get care, you can get quality care, and I'm not just saying that because I'm there, but you can get great services and great care. Get yourself an individual therapist. You can get into groups. There's a lot that's out there, but you have to be willing to invest your time to get what it is that you need.
Do you really want it? Like you were saying.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, there's not just Midtown. It's like in Indy, when you think of mental health, you think Midtown, like automatically. That is not the only place that's out there.
Not the only ticket.
Not the only ticket at all. I go to the Hamilton Center, which is off of about 22nd, 23rd in Illinois, and that's a really great facility. And they're really about holistically helping the patients that they take in. So they have care management that can help you with housing and assistance and things of that nature, on top of the therapy and the psychiatrist and things of that nature. So the resources that are out there. Not only that, just like CTS, check your local neighborhood center. A lot of times they offer free counseling. I know one of them is the MLK Center, if I'm not mistaken. They offer free counseling. So it's out there if you really want it. And if you don't know where to look, ask until you find it.
The great resource for that is 211.
Yes, 211. 211.
What is 211?
It's a phone number, like you call
the
and you
number
just
211.
literally you can ask anything, you know, food stamp assistant, bus pass assistant, where can I
And they
get
help you just
therapy?
like that? They just give you what
have
you need to get.
experts
They
that-
point you in the right direction.
Wow.
Yes.
So it's a really, really good resource.
Absolutely.
Wow. Pound 211, right?
I think it's just
Well,
It's
just
actually
you just dial 211.
Yep, just
Oh, wow.
211.
Yeah, somebody was telling me about that a long time ago. Man, I'm not dialing 211.
it's
Watch, one day I'm going to need it. You know, let me dial this
it's
211.
a really good resource.
Yeah, it really
That's
is.
awesome.
It really, I've
That's
used it
awesome.
several times myself. So
And one of our viewers, made this comment when we were talking, about the village.
So,
She said, "You can't trust the village anymore."
um,
What is
I
your
would like to know why.
perspective on that?
I would like to know why that particular person feels that way, because it's probably coming from some place of pain and hurt, rejection even. I'm not, trying to speak for that person, but I used to feel the same way. You can't trust people anymore. People don't really care. All kinds of things. And for me personally, that came from rejection, abandonment, resentment, anger, a lot of different things, to where I felt like I couldn't trust.
Right.
But you can find people that you can trust.
Right,
They're
right.
out there.
There's millions of people out here that
absolutely.
just genuinely want to
There are
look
good
out for you
people
and
out
help
here.
you.
Absolutely, there are good people that are out
It's
here.
an environmental change. Some
Absolutely.
people's I can't get out the hood, man. I'm like, yes, you can.
You absolutely can if you want to.
Yeah, if you
it always
if you
goes
want
back
to,
to
you
if
can.
You want to.
Right.
Absolutely. So to that person, you can trust the village, but you have to be mindful of who you have in your village. It may be that somebody in your village you really can't trust,
Right.
and you need to remove that person from your village. I had to do that, and I'm still kind of pruning, to
Right.
be perfectly honest. You have to take constant inventory of
Right.
who and what's around you, because you're constantly changing. So
Right.
you can't constantly have the same people around you if
Right.
they're not also evolving with you.
Right. And at some point, the people who really have the issues, they'll be looking at you like, what's wrong with you? Because you're not feeding into that, what you were feeding into before.
Absolutely.
So now your circle changes.
Absolutely.
Those same people that
Right.
could just come to you and say, let's smoke or let's go do this and do
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
they no longer exist.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
not happening.
And on that same piece, I had to come to grips with this, and I think a lot of us, specifically Black people, have to come to grips with this. No matter how much you change, no matter how much good you do, some people will only see you for who you were.
Word,
That's
not
true.
R. Word. Key word is word.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's all they know,
Makes
and
sense.
they're still in that same place.
That makes
Right.
sense. Yes.
You can't let that deter you from
Right.
propelling forward.
Right.
And I think that kind of goes into that piece of not trusting the village.
Yeah.
That person may have someone in their life that is constantly feeding them. You ain't never gonna change.
Yeah.
You can't change. Yes, you can.
Because
Anybody
then-
can change if they truly
Yeah,
want to.
Right.
yeah, because that person that is typically projecting that onto that person,
They're feeling it about themselves.
yeah,
Yes.
and they are just resenting your progress.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
when
that
you
makes
nip
sense.
that in the bud.
That's good stuff, man. I mean, this conversation is so necessary. I love the dialogue, and we must continue having this dialogue.
Absolutely.
So many
Absolutely.
people, again, we're talking about mental health, and so many people just don't understand and know what it is, and that it's not a bad thing. It's what you make it, but it's not a bad thing when you need help.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm
That's
saying? You can get help. You can seek help. You guys listed a few of those. You play some of those things that they said in And the if y'all have a website, you said 211, but you said 211. But if you had a website or something that people can reference or click on in our comment section, please put that in there
Yeah,
or let us know what it
please do.
is.
Please do.
Because some people are still so afraid to let people know that something may be wrong with them or to seek help. So, anything that we can provide on air or through our comment section will help people greatly. And we've had people come to us and say, wow, you know what, that show that y'all did
Yeah.
3 or 4 weeks ago, man, that really helped me.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So,
That's a blessing.
and I love this because it goes forever. These videos stay on
Yes.
Facebook as long as
That's
Facebook stays around. But we do put them on YouTube and share them in other places. So people will always have access to them. And we just hope that people are taking heed to these kind of conversations. And viewers, please chime in. If y'all have any questions, anything y'all want to talk about, this is the time to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
In the program that
I always say, uh-oh, man. I mean, the way she, comes up to the mic like,
Right.
let me tell y'all
Listen.
something. Let me tell y'all something.
right? So in the program that Sharon and I went through, I want to say then, I don't know about now, but then we were literally the only we were the only school in the state of Indiana that required our therapists to go through therapy. And in my opinion, I actually was going to make a Facebook status about this sometime this week, but to going to therapy was probably one of the greatest blessings to me.
Okay.
And it just opened up. I'm just so grateful. I remember specifically before grad school, I was praying like, God, help me take out my trash. Because I heard this sermon one day and it said, if you don't take out your trash, like in your home, your house is going to eventually stink. And a lot of y'all
Right.
walking around stinking.
Right.
And I was like, God, just tell me to take out my trash. I didn't even know what my trash is. I just knew that I had
Right.
trash that needed to be removed. And
Right.
so when I got, when we had to go through therapy, which I wasn't resistant against it, it was just the greatest thing ever. It was a really
Awesome.
great experience. You get to just talk about yourself.
Right.
I mean, ain't that a lovely thing? You just sit down and talk about yourself for a whole hour with
Yep.
no
And somebody
judgment.
listen to you. Yeah.
You're being listened to. There's no judgment. There's solutions like being offered. I mean, yeah, I'm like definitely like team therapy all the way.
That's awesome.
And
That's
even
awesome.
if it, like I said, you don't have anything that's big or deep going on and you just still want to kind of have that conversation about yourself, or maybe there's some things bothering you, I totally encourage therapy.
How do you approach someone that like there's probably some viewers and listeners, somebody out there that has somebody that they go home to every day and they know for a fact that something's going on with them, but that person also contributes to the house. They also are paying, a majority of the bills and there's things going on. What do you say to that person, that person needs help? The person is great at, paying the bills, but he come home and just go crazy on everybody every day. What do you say to the woman or the man who's dealing with a similar situation where they become a prisoner in their own home, but for the sake of financial reasons or whatever, they haven't said anything or don't want to mess things up?
There's a few different ways to look at it. So you have NAMI. You want to speak on NAMI? Look, she's a NAMI ambassador, but so you got places that will help family members and equip them to deal with different situations, because a person can just say, well, you need to go address this, or you need to just leave, or you need to do this or do that, and not take into consideration all the different ramifications. And so
Right.
that's why I'm happy that our program is systemic, because we're not just going to step in and tell this person, oh, you need to just do this. Because I don't know what's best for you.
Right.
And sometimes it's like, I know what's best for you and this is what you need to do. Well, that may not be the case. This may lead to my death. And
Right.
so let's look at what all this looks like and equip a person to do what it is that they're going to need to do. And it may not be a matter of this person needs to do this today. It may take some steps to get
Right.
that person to
Right.
the place. And often it's not just this person who's got this issue, because if you're in relationship with a person with a mental illness, there are ways that affects you.
Right.
So
And the kids and so on.
so you may no doubt need help as well. So it may start with you getting the help, and then being prepared to address what's going on. So it's like not a one,
Right,
it's
for
not
sure.
it's not a quick
For sure.
fix.
And that's a very good point.
It is.
Very good point.
Three things. I first wanted to address the viewer because I saw that she
Yeah,
responded.
I was going to read it, but
yeah,
but go ahead. But go ahead.
I wasn't gonna read it, but I did want to address it. I can completely empathize with where you're coming from, but to that I say, you trusting the village is not passive; it's active. Truly get to know who you are trusting. I feel like we oftentimes tend to give trust to people who do not deserve it.
Yeah.
So in that regard, in my village, I'm truly getting to know the people that I'm calling my village. I'm coming to your house. I'm checking up on you.
Right.
I'm going to know your life. That's just how I feel.
Right.
For me, if I feel like there's any bit of resistance, any type of feeling that you're hiding something, then I'm not going to trust you. You're not in my village. You may be just a colleague or an associate, but you're not in my village. So again, I feel like that trust has to be active and not passive.
Makes sense.
Thank you. I'm going to speak on the speaking to who's in your household from a professional and a personal standpoint. From the professional standpoint, shameless plug, NAMI is NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It was founded in 1979, the largest grassroots organization.
They have a website?
Yes, it is NAMI.org. NAMIIndiana.org.
NAMI?
Yes, sorry, NAMI. NAMI Indiana for the local chapter.
Okay.
They are the largest grassroots organization that deals with mental health.
Okay.
They offer a lot of great programming and resources to help spread awareness and educate people on what mental health is and how to deal with it and how to deal with a family member that is living with mental health challenges. One of their programs is called Family to Family, and I will post that link to their website in the comments. But Family to Family is a really great program. I have not gone through it myself. I've sat in like a session, but anyone that has ever been through that program absolutely raves about it, absolutely loves it, and then they go on to volunteer and facilitate those programs, because everything with NAMI is peer led. There are no technical mental health professionals. It's all peer led. So it's either someone who is in recovery from mental health, such as myself. I do presentations for them called In Our Own Voice. I go to schools, I go to inpatient units, I do conferences and things of that nature, and I literally just get a chance to tell my story.
Nice.
So it really brings in that connection and personal piece, and people oftentimes after I'm done presenting will say, thank you so much for sharing. I would have never guessed you look normal, They say all of these things because people really just do not know. And a lot of people like to hug me. I've in turn become a hugger because of these presentations. And from the personal standpoint, and I don't apologize if you don't believe, because I believe this anyway. Pray first.
Okay.
Prayer is your greatest weapon.
Don't
That's
apologize
just how
for
I
that.
feel. I said I don't apologize. But seriously, prayer is your greatest weapon. And then absolutely come from a place of love. If you have any judgment, any hatred, any resentment, anything in your heart, don't talk to them yet. You're not ready. Because you're not ready to talk about it and they're not ready to hear it. Come from a place of love and you will get a lot farther.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I most certainly agree with that. Let's say when I was 27, I ain't gonna tell you how old I am now, but when I was 27, I went through a midlife crisis too, where I didn't like the world for what it was, and I made a pact to myself and and my God that I wouldn't think that way anymore. But up until that point, I just really didn't look at anybody as valuable for anything. I never hurt or did anything to anybody. I just didn't take people for their word. And, that didn't come from a genuine place. I've made a pact now to always remain genuine and humble and come from these places, because my experiences weren't that great either coming up. from about from a kid to all the way up until an adult. I had a great mother who was always there for me. Single parent home, but there's just some things that you go through as a young man that your mom can't fend you from. And those things right there turned me really cold and against a lot of different things to the point where I just up and left and went to a whole nother city just because, so in a pursuit for music and all these other things. But my point in saying that is that if I hadn't made a pact to become, have more humility, be genuine, love everybody, just try and help people see the best out of people, I wouldn't even be who I am today. And, so that statement, what you're saying, it has to come from a place of humility and love and all that, because at some point in time, those people, some flips on and they realize that not only do they realize it at the moment, but it's something that they can give to other people. And those experiences create an eternity of love and humility for other people. Yeah. And we've had, me and him, off air, we have many conversations with people who come in here and just like to talk to us about things. And it's just amazing some of the experiences that people have and the things that they believe. Like I got a dude that think he got hundreds of haters. Hundreds of haters. As soon as he wake up in the morning, they hating on me. I'm just like, who? You know what I'm saying? I still can't figure it out because I'm trying to figure out. But it just shows you that his mentality and we create a lot of our own ignorance. And actually, there's nobody standing there. I don't know anybody that wake up in the morning and be like, let me see how I can hate on him. You know what I'm saying? Let me see how I can kill his day today, Not saying that there's not evil people out there, but, I don't think anybody necessarily wakes up in the morning to just focus on, being a hater. I don't think anybody wakes up like that. I'm going to hate y'all today. I'm going to hate. There are some people out there. I mean, there are some people, like I said, there are some people. There are some people that are vindictive and all that. But I'm saying, like, it's not anything that should affect your ability to grow as a person and to do great things. You know what I'm saying? I don't even think. Look, if I got haters, I don't even know why. You know what I'm saying? Because they just being who they are. You know what I'm saying? So I don't let it affect me, and I don't think about it. I focus more on what I'm doing today and what I'm doing for people, and I get joy out of that. So, and I think everybody should. That's what we put on this earth for, to help other people. I don't think anybody feels good helping themselves. Well, some people are self-absorbed, narcissistic, but it feels good to help other people. And we must continue doing that by doing it from a place of love and humility and just being genuine, because those things come back full circle. So.
Can I say something real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
Absolutely.
The prisoner in your own home, just because I've worked in substance abuse for a while now, I feel like the partner or the parent, because I worked with adolescents, a lot of the parents feel like they're prisoners in their own home because they can't get their kids to stay at home, or their kids keep using, or the spouse, the husband, keeps getting drunk or keeps using. So I feel like that is a really big phenomenon in addictions when it comes to the family work, because the partner usually is just at such a loss. But there are so many support groups, and kind of like NAMI, there's their own little so there's AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and then there's Al-Anon. So all the Anons are for support for the family. So you have Nar-Anon, Al-Anon, and those are just for family members. And it is honestly a sort of a special not a technique, but there is a certain way to be if you are in a relationship with an addict. Because being in a relationship with the addict also can almost be an addiction itself, a codependency addiction. So you have to learn and take care of yourself. That means going to those support groups, taking control of what you can take control of, because usually that person wants to control everything else. So I just wanted to touch on that, because addiction is so big, and there is plenty of resources out there for those family support groups. And
that support has no like the money limitation. Like some people's like, oh, you got enough money to go get help. You don't really need. It's free. It's free.
It's all in the mind though too.
It's free, because there's millionaires that go crazy and do the same thing. That just tells you right there that money is not the the thing, that makes it or breaks it. It helps you weed through life, obviously, but when it comes to your mental health and your wellness, it doesn't fix everything. So we have to seek each other and continue being open.
Absolutely.
One thing I want to elaborate on more is the fact that as a community, we have to embrace knowing that all people need some form of help at some point.
Yes.
Nobody can do this by themselves. We all are strong and we can go out and do it every single day, but we have to keep reminding each other that, hey, you got somebody in your corner.
Yeah.
If
Why
you ever
would
need
want-
anything, let me know.
Yeah, why would you want to do it alone?
Right. Right. What's the joy in that?
We aren't meant to be alone.
Right.
Going back to that human connection.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Again, you said that earlier that having a human connection is the fix. That a lot of times you find out at the end of the day that just being around a group of people, you spoke on this too, being around a group of people that have been through it and that can help you and understand that human interaction is really what gets you over the hump.
And I can definitely speak to that because I would say in the last, since like April, early May, like I stated earlier, I made the conscious effort to start surrounding myself with people that were either where I want to be or could just help elevate me from where I was.
So you're trying to reach it.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
And so in doing that, I stopped feeling so isolated. I stopped feeling so alone. I stopped feeling the need to self-medicate. Like that human connection piece is legitimate. It can truly help with both mental health and addiction.
Right.
So my biggest thing for people who are in it themselves, if you notice yourself isolating yourself, if you can, because sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's like quicksand. And spoke about that on the blog, shameless plug. But
what is your blog?
So my blog is Transparently Living in Truth. If you Google it, it is the first link. Come on, first link.
Okay. Transparently Living in Truth.
Yes.
.com.
So
what's the
it's
website?
.wordpress.com.
Okay.
Yes. Eventually it'll be .com.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So on social media, I believe on Instagram, I'm Transparently Tasha, and on Twitter, I'm Tasha Marie _TOT.
Okay.
So, but all of that's interconnected. Link is everywhere. But yes,
Great.
Transparently Living in Truth. And it's funny because when I first came up with that name, I had someone tell me that's a little long, ain't it? I said, but it has a point. I said because I've come to know in my personal journey. You can be transparent and you cannot be truthful. And you can be truthful and not transparent. And there is definitely a certain kind of healing that comes from being transparent. And truly not just living your truth, but knowing your truth.
You're free.
You are absolutely free.
Right.
And so that transparency piece is what I stress the most. Transparency is not optional when you truly want to heal.
Right.
That's where your healing comes from,
Right.
honestly. Because until you're honest with yourself and with others,
Right.
you will not heal.
Absolutely.
And that was my biggest thing. I could be halfway honest with people around me, and I couldn't be honest with myself.
Right.
And so it really came with that transparency piece. I mean, I pushed myself out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Stuff I really didn't feel like sharing, I made sure I shared.
Right.
Because when I didn't, it was very easy for me to withdraw.
Being you is easy. You just have to be you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that came with time, because being me wasn't always easy.
Okay.
And I didn't know how to deal with being me.
Right.
Because even I, at a young age, saw that I had a whole lot of layers.
And the world is telling you that you is not normal.
Yes.
Right.
And not only that, the world tends to want to put you in one box. I have people that will approach me and say, "How many kids do you have?" Isn't the question, do you have children?
Yeah, they just automatically assume that you have kids.
I had somebody ask so bold to say when I said, "Well, I don't have any kids." Oh, well, how many abortions did you have?
Wow, unbelievable.
Like,
Yeah, see the stereotype.
Wow, like seriously. So I got to the point where I was automatically on defense, where I was like, I don't have kids and I've never had an abortion. And people like,
that just tells you their experience and what they've dealt with.
Absolutely.
So now they're like, well, you had
Absolutely.
to.
Or they saw it on TV.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
right.
I mean, it's a lot, and And so it's not always easy to be you, but you will feel so much better when you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, I want to get to two questions. One I have for you, Jessica. In regards to, addiction, one of our viewers wrote, what if you are in denial that you are addicted to, a drug, alcohol?
Mm-hmm.
Well, unfortunately, that is probably the number one hallmark of addiction is
Right.
denial.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it's very common. Again, usually you can't drag someone and say, you need help.
Mm-hmm.
Now, dealing with families and relationships when it comes to
that next one.
when it comes to addictions, you can put, I mean, I guess you can do that,
Mm-hmm.
but something that we sort of teach or preach with family members is boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries are so important. So even if that person is in denial, you yourself can help yourself by putting up certain boundaries, and that may be if you're not home by midnight, you won't come in this house. Or
Right.
if you, if the refrigerator gets unlocked, then I don't know. But you have to put up boundaries to stick to those boundaries. And usually what I see happen is those boundaries drive people to want to get help, because when you don't put up boundaries, you're constantly enabling that person.
Right.
So they can just keep on doing what they're doing. But boundaries be like, okay, dang, I kind of got to do something different here.
Right.
Maybe I do need help. And even if they don't want the help, they feel like they're in a position where the boundaries kind of made them get help. But then that can be a blessing in disguise, because when you're sober enough to experience the benefits of sobriety, that's when people want to be like, okay, maybe this sober life isn't that bad. And
Right.
then that's when it can look up for them.
Right.
Did you want to touch on
Yeah,
that too?
on the denial,
Okay.
just thinking
Yeah.
about how natural consequences can bring a person out of denial sometimes. And so sometimes it's legal consequences. Nobody wants to face that, but it may be a matter of, because of my addiction, now I'm in this place to where I have to report. I have to drop. I have to do these things, and unfortunately, I may have to pay fees or whatever the case may be. So some of those natural consequences sometimes can help a person to come out of denial, as well as now I'm not allowed to do this. So you go back to those boundaries. Natural consequence of me being in my addiction is now the family is setting these boundaries. They're doing these things and not allowing me to continue to move this direction, because they're saying this is where I'm going to be. So sometimes it's about the natural consequences. I'm not going to pay your fees related to this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to stand in the middle of your consequence.
Right.
And sometimes we do that. Oh, I don't want my baby to go through that, or that's going to be too much, or and then we step right in the middle between this person and that consequence, and that's not always the best thing. Often is not, because
Right.
now they haven't had to deal with it, so they're continuing on. Next time it may be a whole lot worse, whereas this may have been something that could have been addressed a lot earlier.
Right.
But we don't want to see our loved ones going through certain amounts of pain.
Right.
We want to protect them, and in that protecting, sometimes we're doing much more harm than
Absolutely.
protecting.
Sometimes, you see something unnormal, and you're just like, oh, just having a bad day. Well, they're just having a bad week. Just having a bad month.
Yeah.
Something's up.
Bad
It's
life.
usually a process. By the time that month comes, you're like, okay, it's time to get some help. Hopefully, they're not in the deep end, but we just have to do more. And this is another thing, like, there isn't any processes in education, unless you're going to get educated on this subject, around understanding that something's odd or something's wrong. Oftentimes, like, we could start as young as education for kids. We're learning about math and history and all these things. And kids go home, they don't know what mental health is. They don't know if their parent is suffering from something that they could get help from. So maybe we need to teach that at an entry level, for kids and teenagers, so that they can help identify some of these things in their parents and possibly get them the help they need beforehand.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think that And at the event that we were at on Friday, I had a group of teachers.
What event was this?
This was the Indianapolis Urban League. I'm sorry.
Equal Opportunity Day.
Yes, thank you. I was like, I cannot remember the name of the event. Sorry. Thank you.
What was it? The
Equal Opportunity Day, Teen Suicide Prevention Summit.
Okay.
Yeah. So they did a piece on teen suicide prevention, and they also did a piece upstairs on ex-offenders.
Okay.
So it was definitely a twofer, great event, and I heard a lot of great things about the ex-offender piece. We spent the day in the teen suicide prevention portion of it, and I had a group of teachers that came up to me and just said, how can we be better teachers?
Right.
How can we identify when our students are legitimately going through something?
Right.
And that just warmed my heart because it lets me know that the want is there.
Right.
The education piece just needs to be there.
Right.
And that's one of my goals, even if it's just through my volunteer work, is to bring forth that education and make people more aware and point them in the right directions to know what they need to know and learn how to be more effective in dealing, with youth and young adults who are struggling with mental health challenges.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Great answer.
Yeah,
This has been a great discussion, you guys.
absolutely.
We don't want to get kicked off by Facebook again. They are very good at doing that when they want to. But we have to do this again.
Absolutely.
We'll be calling upon you guys again. We have a person, one guy named George. I don't know if you guys know him, George Middleton. I did some business with him a while ago, but he's a mental health expert as well, and he'll be coming back with next time. He knows. I sent him an email today about it, or yesterday. He accepted it. So, but I'll bring you guys back again with him as a male perspective, and that will we can further engage in these conversations at that time. What I want to do is we do like closing remarks where we like to tell all our viewers, where they can get help and what to do in regards to the topic, which is mental illness. Just tell them what they need to hear, because a lot of people just need to be reassured that it's okay, to go out there and get some help. Start with you.
So I would say, just thinking from personal experience, like Jessica said, we had to go through counseling, but even outside of that, I've seen therapists, and that was plural. I think it's very important. You have to have the mindset of, even though other people may not be in agreement with me going out and seeking help, I know this is something that's good for me. And it's not just about seeking therapy. It's about, like you said, prayer, top priority, praying as well. I also, looking at my village, been blessed to be surrounded by some amazing people and continuing to add, the village. Just looking at the people that I'm surrounded by and continuing to get fed in those ways, looking at exercise, nutrition. So looking at a holistic approach and how is it that I can take care of my mind, my body, my soul, my spirit, and when there's adjustments that are needed, okay, what is it that I'm needing to do? Who's going to be able to help me to do those things? And not only tapping into other people, making sure that I'm allowing people to tap into me. Sometimes it's about what I'm wanting, what I'm needing, but sometimes it's about how can I help the next person as well. So we have to have some give and take, and it can't always be about what I can get. So how can I help the next person?
Right. Absolutely.
I think what I would just like to end with is you are not alone. And if you need a listening ear, email me.
Yep.
And I will talk to you.
Where can they email you at?
You can email me at transparentlytasha@gmail.com.
Okay.
I will answer, probably immediately, if I'm available to. I believe that a lot of times, and from personal experience, all anybody wants is to be heard.
Right.
And if they feel like nobody will hear them, then they'll seek other means. If I can do anything to curb that, I will. So I'm a listening ear. Absolutely reach out to me.
Absolutely. Awesome. Jessica?
I've been over here thinking like, what I'm going to say. I don't have anything like big and whoop-de-doo, but I would, kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, secrets do keep us sick. So for people that have not dealt with those core underlying secretive issues that we so often want to push under the rug. I really do encourage you to take the courage, to find the courage, and it's not an overnight process. It's not going to be an easy process, but if you chip at that slowly, day by day,
You get stronger.
and then you can live a free life. Like, who doesn't want to have a freedom-filled life? And when you have those things within you, in my opinion, you can never be 100% free. If you're still having those secrets and keeping them under the rug. So that would be my final thought.
There you go. Get rid of the secrets, people.
Absolutely.
P. Wills.
I appreciate y'all for coming. Just giving a lot of valuable information, and Tasha, you sharing your story, very powerful.
Thank you.
I use myself. We just had a show this past Saturday where I was talking about the effects of not having my father there. So bottom line, I still go through things, but it gets to what all three of you have touched on. Like, you have to just be open and talk about it. The more you hold it in and you don't seek help, like a hug or just like a voice, the worst things can happen. And I don't want to pass down or continue a cycle that has been, or that was happened from my father to me and all of his kids. So I have two boys, so I'm very leery on who I let watch them and the things that I say and I expose them to, because I was exposed to a lot. Not saying not saying that my mother didn't try. I mean, she had me when she was a teenager, but I saw and I did certain things that I regret. So I just want my boys to not go through the same thing. So, but love your story. I would actually like to not only have y'all back, but you as a guest host. I mean, for certain shows that we do in the in the future.
Absolutely.
Seriously, I think what you represent and your story needs to be heard.
Thank you.
But yeah,
Awesome. Y'all
Y'all
always
about to make
take
me cry.
y'all always take the words out of my mouth.
no, seriously though, but
And I'm serious. I did almost just tear up a little bit. So, the outpouring of love that I've received by choosing to be transparent,
For sure.
and choosing to help other people is blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Doors, and I think I just made this status. Doors that I thought would take months, years to
Right.
open have been flying open in the last week.
Right.
So it's amazing, and I'm honored, and I'm humbled, and I'm thankful.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and I do want to point out, this is more volunteer, so it's not like we
Yeah.
can pay for this. So, but I just want you to know that. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything I do right now is volunteer, honey. It's all good.
And
You
that
have to
just-
get paid for being you. Just for being you.
That just further pours into the notion that anything that you do that makes it seem like you're going in the right direction, all the doors start opening, and you kind of know that
Gotta make a way.
things are going good. Because things that you're not supposed to, obviously the doors are going to continue to shut.
Yeah.
And they're going to continue to stop you and put you in situations that you're not supposed to be in. That's God redirecting your course.
Absolutely.
And some people don't listen, and they get to the point where it becomes death. And that's the end result, right?
And I knew that's where I was headed.
Right.
That's why I stopped.
Right.
That's why I decided to change.
Oh, we're glad you changed.
Thank you. I am too. I am too.
I just want to say thanks to you guys, obviously. Each one of you guys brought information that I had no idea about, even corrected me on a few things because, I need those. But we could take. I'm just a person that loves to take in everything that I don't know about, because I want to be able to reiterate that and share with other people as well. We don't know everything, and we have to stop acting like we do. You get people in front of you that know more than you, and then that's how you learn. So I just appreciate you guys for coming in. We're obviously definitely going to do this again. Your story is incredible. I just love that you're sitting here because you think about stories like that. A lot of people don't make it.
Absolutely.
You know, and you're still in the midst of making it, and that's the beauty in it because this is the humble, it's you, the realest you in your true raw form.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that in 6 months we can still touch you or get to you because
Absolutely.
where you going?
You know,
I'll be on TV somewhere.
No, I mean, I'm gonna say this, and I'm not just saying this because you're here. But you are one of the reasons why we created this platform.
Yep.
Seriously.
To have a voice. Give you a voice.
You know, and you know, we fought that fear and everything. So if we had never did this, you know, this story would not. I mean, nothing would you know be here right now. So
We're gonna continue doing it.
Yes.
It's needed.
Please.
Shoot. without cursing. Without using curse words.
Yes.
Shoot. All right. So to the viewers, we will. We love you. We thank you guys for always rocking with us, tuning in, and sharing our feeds. And we cannot reach the amount of people without you guys sharing and loving what we do. We just ask that you continue sharing, continue supporting us, and you know we're going to keep doing what we do.
Yeah.
You know, like Pat was saying, we don't get paid for this. This is voluntary, and we just know that it's necessary for us to do our part. Individually, we have a responsibility to get on air.
Volume.
I had the same issue
It's
earlier.
okay.
It's all good. Look,
It's okay.
Look, just go.
It happens more than everybody getting volume down.
I made it through without snorting. Let's just.
Oh, hey, to the viewers, you know, on our page, can you post like any subjects or topics that you would love for us to talk about?
Yes, absolutely. Because we touching on things, and we're gonna continue touching on those things, and we get inbox all the time for different things. Some things are the same things. We were like, oh, we had a show about that, but you know, it's amazing. Some people will hit me up. Yeah, I got to do a show on mental health. Did you see the show we did?
Let's talk about it.
I don't know if you see the show we did yesterday. We're gonna do it again though.
Yes.
But you know,
Oh yeah.
thanks for rocking with us.
Thank you.
And we're gonna keep doing this. We're doing this for y'all. If you change the narrative, you change the nation. You know, and we truly believe that. And we got to start by individually being responsible enough to say, you know what, I'm gonna do my part. I'm gonna get out here and try and help somebody. So I'm gonna leave y'all on that note. We'll see y'all next time. Thank you.
Peace.
Welcome to the Gray Area. The Gray Area Media. We've obligated ourselves to be the voice for all communities, speaking on topics that include community, religion, education, politics, technology, sports, health, and wellness. The Gray Area Media is a platform created by longtime friends for the sole purpose of providing our communities with the ability to voice current, past, and modern-day issues. The Gray Area, in its naming significance, solely speaks to the area in which people shy away from speaking because of media-based constraints or contractual-based obligations. Well, I'm here to tell you, we don't do that here. So please, stay tuned in. We're going to go live in a few minutes. Don't forget, please add us as a friend on Facebook so that you can follow our live feed. And not only that, please add us on Twitter and Instagram at The Gray Area Media. Please visit our website at www.thegrayareamedialive.com. Thank you.